go ahead and think about a response and then act in response, but don't live in reaction. Or living in reaction is just really bad because it's unthinking, and it's just primal, and you're just firing off, and it rarely serves you. So stop living in reaction. Instead, stop, consider your directions, consider your response, and then live in response. So that's probably the biggest thing that I try to teach my students, is to just stop and to think about what they're doing. It's like I'm trying to install software on their brains. So this is cognitively directed. It's cognitively directed movement. So you don't have to think about Alexander technique, all your waking hours, but if 3 or 4 times a day you can think about what you're doing for a minute, to stop, pause, and go, I notice that I'm holding my shoulders up higher than they need to, or I notice I'm not really using my knees and I'm not bending at my joints, but then I'm trying to hinge in the middle of my back, which is not meant to a place to hinge for. So, or I'm really holding with my ankles, or I've got holding a lot of tension in my face. Maybe I can just let that go. So those are some of the things that I tell them. Also, I try to get all my students to do something called active rest, or lying in semi-supine. So that's where you have your head supported, so the head's neither tilting back nor forward, and you're lying on your back, and the knees are up, and that simply gives you an opportunity for the back to unlock, and you kind of let go of all the postures that you've been putting yourself through, and all the way you've been holding yourself and pulling down and tensing, and you can just start to let that go. And if you'll do that for 10, 15 minutes a day, it's a great opportunity to let go of unnecessary tension, unnecessary compression, take your full space in the world, and then get up and lead your life.
I love that. Take your full space in the world. I love that. Isn't that great? That's take your space in life. You have a really nice attitude on it. I'm intrigued. I'm very much intrigued. Now, do you teach this? I'm assuming you teach this in person. Is that right?
Yes, I primarily teach this one-on-one. It can be taught in groups, but normally I'll teach this one-on-one, and I'll often do some walking, and I'll just have the person walk, and I'll say, okay, well, do you notice that you're kind of tilting to one side, or one shoulder's an inch higher than the other, and kind of let them know about some of their habits with walking. Then I'll give them a stool and just see what happens as they stand up and sit down, and notice how they, may tip their head back or compress their torso. We may just do some talking, and I'll see, what are their speech habits, where are they tightening or compressing unnecessarily. A lot of people carry tremendous tension in their face. And I say, wow, you're really tensing your forehead. Can you let that go? Or so many people just have really tight jaws. So I'll say the word Boston slowly. Just say Boston, Boston, and see where that leaves your lower jaw. That's probably the ideal physiologic rest position. Because if your teeth are coming together during the day, except for, eating, but aside from that, if your teeth are coming together, that's a dysfunction. That's not very good. And if you're driving in traffic and you're gritting your teeth, well, just kind of notice what you're doing and let it go, and try just saying the word Boston. Let the lower jaw fall down and away, and find its ideal physiologic rest position. And that's, the position that the lower jaw should be in, most of the day. So try to, let go of clenching your teeth and clenching your forehead and clenching your back. It's not doing you any favors.
Yeah, I think maybe you're telling us how to take the what do you call it, the invisible Valium, to just relax, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to learn here. And relaxing at the Alexander technique is taking away instead of learning other things that we can do. You teach how to stop doing things instead of showing people how to do things to alleviate things. Is that right? I think I just got it.
Yeah, we never use the word relax in the Alexander technique because most people interpret it as collapse. So if I was to tell someone, just relax, they would kind of slump and everything would collapse. So we talk about letting go of unnecessary tension and taking your full space in the world. But for some reason, most people react to the word relax by collapsing. and that's no better than tensing.
Would you say it has a lot to do with proper posture? I can't seem to nail you down on anything yet. Is it proper posture, perhaps?
Good posture is a result of the Alexander technique, but again, we don't use that word because posture is people react to words often very predictably, and people react to the word posture by kind of pulling themselves up and tightening, and we don't want people tightening. We haven't found that a useful word to use, but the ironic thing is that the end result of everything we're talking about is great posture. You meet any Alexander teacher and they have amazing posture, but if we tell someone, we want you to have good posture or think about your posture, virtually everybody reacts to the instruction to think about your posture by tightening. And that doesn't do them any favors, and it really doesn't help the posture because you can't hold that for very long. You get tired, and then you go from tightening to collapse, and neither tightening of the body or collapsing the body is very good.
All right, for people that don't live by you, how can you help us? I live in Texas, or Bathtub Girl lives in Oklahoma. How can you benefit us at your website? We have to be. I'm assuming this would be more like something that we need to do in person, or could it be done via a webcam or It
can be done by Skype. That's kind of a controversial thing in our profession. Some teachers teach via Skype, and then other teachers say, no, you should only do it, in person, and because much of this work's hands-on, where you're gently guiding the person into an easier way of using themselves. But if anybody simply Googles Alexander technique and self-teaching or self-taught, you can learn quite a few things on your own, or you can find an Alexander teacher near you, or you can approach an Alexander teacher who teaches through Skype to, watch your patterns. My opinion is that it can be taught via Skype because what you're teaching is noticing, becoming aware of your patterns of unnecessary tension, and then letting them go. So to me, that's the essence of Alexander technique. So I do believe it can be taught via Skype. And I also believe that many people can, through like using a video camera, videotape themselves to notice their patterns of unnecessary compression and tension. And by simply becoming aware of those patterns, you can start to let them go.
I think I might incorporate that into my lesson plans. I think that might be good for my girls. I mean, you're never too young to learn or relearn.
Exactly.
Never
and the kids are just, they really take to this so quickly. I find that the older people are, the more difficulty it is to kind of get through to them because they've had all these years of their habits. But the kids, often really respond to some directions, like let go of unnecessary tension and to take their full space in the world.
And I think it's amazing. Watch yourself, people. Sit in a room full of mirrors. Sit by mirrors. Look at yourself. Try to learn what you're doing.
People so rarely do that, though. I don't know very many people that really look at themselves. Yeah, especially women. I mean, think of women, different ages.
And it's amazing. We see ourselves in our mind different than what we are seeing. And I learned that.
Oh, that's true.
There's so many people say, I take horrible pictures. No, you don't. That's what you look like. You think you look different in your brain. You think you act a certain way that you don't. You're actually a jerk. No, I'm joking. But I think that's why when I teach people radio techniques, I say to them, listen to yourself. Listen. It's the best, and almost, in my opinion, the only teacher you're ever going to really need is to sit back after you do a podcast, broadcast, whatever you want to call this, listen to yourself. And once you hear what you do, then that's where you change. And sometimes we are so self-centered and so self-serving that we don't even listen to anybody that's telling us what to do until we see it ourselves. Oh, I see what I'm doing. Did you know that there's a golfer locally that teaches at one of the country clubs around here, a pro, that just videotapes? And he'll say, see, because you can tell somebody, you're doing this in your backswing, you're doing this in your backswing, or whatever, until they see it, oh, I'm doing it in my backswing. it's like, you didn't listen to me. Well, a lot of people don't trust other people.